Good morning, beloveds. Our reading to start off our new month and our new theme, Divine Order, is from our book of the month, The Invitation, by Uriah. The Invitation. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrows, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty, every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself, and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. The Invitation. I'm going to read through our affirmation once, and then I'll invite you to stand and read it with me. It goes like this. I am perfectly aligned in God's orderly universe, ready and able to bless and be a blessing. My mind is in order, focused and clear. My vision is set, and I move forward each day in faith and joy, knowing my good is guaranteed. Please stand and declare this affirmation with me with conviction and confidence. I am perfectly aligned in God's orderly universe, ready and able to bless and be a blessing. My mind is in order, focused and clear. My vision is set, and I move forward each day in faith and joy, knowing my good is guaranteed. And so it is. Anybody ever have an experience of pain or sorrow or confusion? Anybody? Through it all, Where did you place your faith? In the condition? Or in the living spirit of the Almighty One that is the source of all things? You see, we are here this month to begin a conversation around divine order. How do we create a greater sense of divine order in our lives? And many of us, including me, have some chaos. Yes? Some pain, some sorrow. It could be as simple as a junk drawer in your kitchen. A garage that you can't get your car in. There may be pieces of your life that look like that kind of chaos, that kind of, oh, I'm so frustrated, I can't believe. Or it could be that deep woundedness kind of sorrow and chaos where we've experienced a loss or where we've been unable to release an old hurt. We all have things like this in our lives, don't we? And so as I was thinking about divine order, I found myself kind of tending to put my attention on the chaos of my life, which is interesting. See, healing brings up everything unlike itself, doesn't it? Once I start thinking about, well, how could I bring more divine order into my life? How do I want to be with divine order so that I can talk about it from a place of integrity next month? And what really happened was I started putting all of my attention on the chaos and the loss and the sorrow. Funny how that works, isn't it? And we know with the law of attention that what we put our attention on grows, and I experienced some chaos and some pain, yes? So I thought I'd better go to the dictionary and look up the word chaos to see what I could learn. And what I learned is that the word chaos has to do with unorganization, disorderliness, randomness. It might appear that there's a sense of disorganization or randomness in my life at times, yes? And then I thought, well, I'd better go look up divine order as well. And you know what? Divine order is not in the dictionary. Who wrote that thing? I did find order in the dictionary, however. To be orderly is to be methodical. They talk about sequence quite a bit. Neat and tidy, planned. These things have to do with order. Now, how many of you have engaged in various activities intended to bring more order to your life? How's that going? How many of you have made a plan? And oh boy, that was a beautiful plan. I loved that plan. I write a good plan. Can I implement a plan? Can I sustain a plan? Well, that's a different question, but dang, I write a good plan. I clean out my junk drawer 2, 3, 4 times a year. I don't know how it happens. It's like 2 weeks later, I open it up and everything's all over the place, right? It's like, what I know is that there is a lot of what looks like disorder in the universe, isn't there? It looks like chaos. There's a lot of what looks like the cosmic junk drawer, the cosmic overfilled garage in the world. And it gives us a sense of discomfort, pain, sorrow. Yes, when we see that, or when we're trying to navigate, or when we're trying to work but I had a plan. And look what happened. So as I was thinking about this word order, and I was kind of thinking, well, if divine order isn't in the dictionary, I'd better start to think a little bit about what divine order might mean to me. And there is a psalm that came to mind, and that psalm says this. It says, order my steps according to your word. And I love this psalm because we are all about the word, aren't we? The power of our word to create our experience of life. We speak the word, and the word spoken is the word done. We use that language all the time. Order my steps according to your word. What is the word? The word was God. The word was with God, and the word is God. Order my steps according to the very consciousness of God. And then I got out my Hebrew dictionary. Yes, I really have one. because I don't speak Hebrew. And what I wanted to know was, the Psalms were originally written in Hebrew. This is part of the Hebrew Bible. And I wanted to know, what is the Hebrew word that was used in that passage for order? And the word is frame. Like picture frame. You know how a picture frame seals the deal on a painting, right? Oh, I got to get that framed. It's going to look so nice when I get that framed. Frame my steps according to the very presence of God. I was thinking, I was driving through my neighborhood. There's new development going in, and I was driving by, and one of them is just framed in. It's just the framing. Frame my steps. Be the support. Be the internal structure of my life. Allow God to be the internal structure of my life. Frame my steps according to thy word. And so as I think about this thing called chaos, and I think about this thing called order, and I think about the word, and I think about God is all there is, there's only one power and one presence, and we're living in that power and presence, suddenly I realize, is it possible that chaos and order are the same thing? What? Because if God is all there is, God must be in the chaos. God must be in the junk drawer. God must be in the pain and the sorrow and the frustration. And those times when we're experiencing that are those times that we feel most alone, aren't they? All is well with my soul as I remain anchored in the knowing, in the awareness that there is only one life. That life is God's life. Now, I actually have evidence that chaos and order are the same thing. Are you ready for your evidence? If you're in the back, it's broccoli. When I look at this, what do I see? What is it? It's a stump of broccoli. Wait, stalk of broccoli. It's also all over the stage now. It's broccoli, right? But as I look at this, and I recognize that it's broccoli because, we see all the little top patterny stuff, right? And then underneath when we look, we see the little individual stumps, and here's some little leaves on it and stuff. But look what happens to this broccoli when I separate a piece of it. Ready? What is this? It's broccoli. Is it any less broccoli than it was when it was stuck on there? It's still broccoli. What is this? Broccoli. Big Mama broccoli. What is this? Broccoli. Still broccoli. Now, here's an interesting thing. As I'm looking at this little stump, what happens if I pull this off? What is it? What is this? What is this? What? It's all broccoli. This is now separated from this in all appearance, but it's essentially the same, right? And this is separated from this in appearance, but it's essentially the same. Now what might happen? I'm looking at this little stump of broccoli, and oh my heavens. What's this? Broccoli. What's this? Broccoli. Broccoli and broccoli. It's still broccoli. Let me try one more thing. What's this? It's broccoli. It's all broccoli. Now, let me tell you something. To this little thing, if I look at this little thing, what I see is the same pattern as this, right? It's still got the same little head thing, right? There's just more of them, a bigger expression of it here. It's the same little head on it. And if I look here, I see a little stump. And if I look here, I see a little stump. It's a smaller stump. And if I looked at it as a scientist and figured out what it's comprised of, they're exactly the same, right? Can you imagine that to this little teeny piece of broccoli, if it had eyeballs and was looking at this big stump of broccoli, it might go, chaos and confusion! Especially if it's looking from this direction. I don't know what that is. What is that? Right? Because it appears separate. It appears different, but it is, in essence, the same thing. This thing that looks chaotic and big and huge and impossible to manage is the same in essence as this little tiny thing that even if you're in the front row, you probably can't see it very well. Now, you guys are really quick, so I'm sure you're picking up on the analogy. God is all there is. I am one with God. God is all there is. I am one with God. I cannot be separate from its nature. And its nature is chlorophyll and all the green things and whatever it may be. When it's broccoli, its nature is perfect love, perfect order, perfect harmony, perfection. I just can't see from way down here that this is just exactly like me. And so I have to walk in faith. I have to frame my steps with that perspective. One life, that life is my life, that life is good. And even when I am anchored, when I'm having a human experience of chaos and confusion, which to this little dot, this looks like, that doesn't make it any less divine. It doesn't make it any less order. How I cultivate an experience of divine order in my life is how I choose to be with the chaos. How's everybody doing so far? So anytime anything is divine, anytime we think of anything as divine, what we're doing is we are kind of naming it as characteristic of the divine. Does that make sense? Chaos is divine. It's simply another expression, another way that the characteristic nature of God expresses. So this is really a great analogy, isn't it? But what does this mean for your life? How are you going to go away and make this make a difference in your life this afternoon? Because you want to do that, right? I'm all about practical application. I really want you guys to do this. So here's the thing. Chaos or order is all one thing, right? We've established that. Yes? Yes. How can we adopt a new perspective such that the chaos grows us rather than shrinks us? Do you remember this from the reading? Can you stand in the midst of your pain with confidence? Can you stand in the midst of sorrow? Can you stand in the midst of the chaos anchored in the spiritual truth of who you are? Here's something that I sometimes tend to do when life is feeling chaotic or I'm feeling unhappy with the way things are unfolding around me. And you can think about if you ever do this. God, if only I'd majored in English. Right? I mean, I could have been a nice college teacher somewhere. If only I had married that person or not married the other person. If only. things had been this way. If only I'd slept in that morning, or if only I'd not slept in. Do you ever do this? You kind of go, oh God, why didn't I buy a house in 2009? Right? Do you do this in your life? Yeah, I do this sometimes. We ask ourselves, how would life be different? So let me share a little bit of wisdom here from one of our great spiritual teachers, Ernest Holmes. He says, we believe that for every visible object, there is a divine pattern of that object in the invisible to which the object is related. This applies to a bed, the grass, or an archangel, if such a creature exists, and I suppose it does. There must be beings beyond us, as we are beyond tadpoles. But it will be time enough to consider this when we arrive at the next state of consciousness. The important thing is to live in the present now moment and let the future take care of itself. There is a divine pattern. Even when I cannot see that pattern, I am called to frame my steps, to have faith in that pattern. I am called to walk forward with happy confidence, faith and trust that divine order is unfolding and all is well with my soul. How many of you have ever heard of the butterfly effect? Butterfly effect? So the basic idea, it's a term that they talk about in chaos theory, and the idea of the butterfly effect is essentially, there's more behind it than this, but it's essentially that, a butterfly flaps its wings somewhere in China and starts an air current that affects another air current, and ends up a tornado in Kansas. Yes? The idea of the butterfly effect is that it's always cumulative, and where this came from was some scientists who were doing weather modeling. And they started at the beginning and they went through all the modeling and they always got exactly the same result. And one of the scientists went back and said, oh, you know what, I want to run this other test, but I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning, so I'm going to start in the middle. Well, starting in the middle, he had to round up some of the math. Little tiny, like 1/1000th of a point, he had to round up the math, and the results were completely different. Isn't that interesting? When you rounded something up by 1/1000th of a point, suddenly the result was different. A butterfly flaps its wings somewhere on another continent, and we end up with some result over here. Aren't our lives like that? If only I had. If only I had. Well, you did what you did. And it is having a series of effects in your life, isn't it? And those effects are cumulative. And as you rest with the moment, you are allowing the universal presence to unfold however it unfolds instead of trying to manipulate things and make them happen. Now, I want to tell you, I am an expert at manipulating things and making them happen. I'm so good at that. And it will backfire every single time. I don't know, I still get tempted. Even though I feel like I've learned that lesson, I still get tempted. I mean, is this true for anybody else? When you tried to make things go a way you thought it should in the chaos out of your own woundedness and your own pain, and then everything fell apart. It always will. It will always cause greater chaos when we push back against what is. And the effect is cumulative, the butterfly effect, right? It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until we just let the tornado go, because you got it, right? And now you have a chance to restart and to bless everything that has come up to this moment, to simply be aware of it, to be present to it, and do your spiritual practice. That is the only thing that will move us through, that will allow us to frame our steps in the power of the infinite word, of the infinite life, That is the only thing that will convince our souls and our minds and our hearts and our bodies that all is well. All is well. All is well. Even in the appearance of confusion or chaos or pain or lack or loss, I walk in the happy confidence that there is a divine order, there is a divine pattern, and it is unfolding perfectly and divinely. And this is the invitation. This is the invitation to be with whatever is happening with courage, with confidence, with clarity. When we begin to feel pulled into fear or lack or limitation or trying to manage things and make them be different, that we take the step back. We do our spiritual practice. We walk in the conviction and the understanding that the one life is guiding me and lifting me and moving me and breathing me right here and right now. There can be no separation because this and this and this and the little teeny tiny one are all the same thing. I'm just believing I'm separate from the broccoli of all life. But it is not the spiritual truth of me. The infinite broccoli is my broccoli now. There's got to be a song in there, Jeff. You see, the wisdom to become wise, we must dwell in the shadow. We must dwell in the dark place. The wisdom lies in the shadow. We have to be willing to be available to the dark places of life, to allow it to be our teacher, to allow the sorrow, the lack, the limitation, the pain to be what calls us to our next greater level of being. And then when we make a plan, or when we clean out the drawer, or when we do whatever it is we're doing to bring divine order into our lives, it has a space where it can show up. Your garage can't stay clean because you're not getting rid of your stuff. Does that make sense? If you're just reorganizing everything in the same area, it's just going to get all disorganized again, right? When we are carrying around our old stories and our old hurts and our old pain and trying to make life be about that, we're just reorganizing the stuff in the garage, and pretty soon things will fall into chaos again. If we can learn from the dark place, allow the wisdom that the dark place is calling forth from deep within us to make itself known, then suddenly we can begin to have a new experience. But we have to be at peace in the dark place. And I mean the core peace. If you're grieving, you're going to sob, you're going to cry, you're going to have your grief. You've had a human experience of loss. So be in it. Key. Don't camp in it. Have your experience and move on. Have you ever done this where you kind of got a story and that became your story and that's where you camped out? That's the story you told for 20 years? And it becomes our reality, doesn't it? But when we frame our steps with the more powerful word, the Word of God, tell a new story, get a different idea. Remember the spiritual truth of our oneness with all things. We can begin to have a new experience of life. Are you ready to have that new experience of life? Yes. I want to share a story with you that Araya tells in the book. She says this. And I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit because it's kind of long. She says, once in a while we are given moments of real grace. Sometimes during my early morning meditation, a place of me opens, a part of myself lets go that I did not even know was holding on. I feel the hard places in my heart and body yield. I soften. My mind stops, follows my breath. A faith washes through me. Everything is in perfect order. My shoulders drop. I relax. There is enough time, enough energy, enough of everything. I know I belong. I am sustained by the infinite. I do not want to be anywhere else. I am filled with commitment to and compassion for myself and the world. Rising from my meditation cushion, I move unhurriedly toward my day. I step into the bathroom. I catch a glimpse of the quiet half smile on my face, dissolving into a grimace of disgust as cold water soaks through my clean white socks. All semblance of graceful ease shatters in the shrill cry of the banshee as I survey the aftermath of my teenage son's showers. Pools of water on the tile floor, several wet towels in a heap, others twisted onto towel racks in configurations that could not possibly dry before the end of the millennium. The shower curtain half in, half out of the tub, bunched and folded to maximize the growth of mildew and mold. Right? It's so easy to be centered and clear and sacred and holy on the meditation cushion. And then life happens, especially if you have teenage sons, it appears. Yes? But we have to sit on the meditation cushion because it begins to develop our spiritual discipline for remembering that this is the spiritual truth of us, that we are anchored to something so much larger than we are. We must practice. We must practice. We must what? Practice. I'm going to close with just one more quick thing. This is a really good book. She says we have to choose life. We have to be willing to wait. We have to open to life and love at times when opening seems impossible, when we are sure that no one and nothing will ever save us. And she goes on to say on the next page, what is our life dedicated to? Pain or joy? What is your life dedicated to? The story, the pain, the lack, the limitation, the what's wrong, how it'll never work? Or the spiritual truth of oneness and infinite good and harmony and divine order and joy in, as, and through all things? What are you dedicated to? The pain or the broccoli? So let's turn within and practice a little bit, how about? We always want to practice, right? So I invite you to bring your attention to your breath and to feel your breath moving in and out of your body. And as you breathe, I invite you to open your heart, open your mind, open your awareness that you are part of something greater than you are. And that with each and every breath, you are animating and accelerating an energy, a life force that is universal. It is a universal presence. As you breathe deep, deep, deep into the center of your being, you become more and more aware that something is breathing you. That the infinite presence of life is animating you. And you begin to recognize and to realize that you are infinitely connected to this one, to this mind, to this heart, to this presence. It is all there is, and you are something, and so you cannot be separated from it. And so I invite you right now to just look about your life and Find a place where there might be chaos or disorder. It could be something in your physical environment, something you've been meaning to get to. It could be an experience of loss or pain or confusion that you are having. Just bring that thing to mind, continuing to breathe, continuing to remember that you are part of the infinite life. That which is the broccoli, but even bigger than the broccoli, it is that which has no limits. It has no, it's infinite. It has no edges. It is beyond the edges. The power and the presence and the love of God extends beyond the face of the universe itself, and yet it is right where you are. And as you hold in your conscious awareness this condition, this experience of chaos or confusion or lack or pain, just breathe. Be present to that pain, that discomfort. And just feel it. No judgment, no fear. You just notice how it feels, what is happening. And here in the dark place, allow your inner wisdom to speak. What is this experience telling you? What is called to be healed in you? What judgment or false belief have you been holding on to? What story have you been telling that is keeping you stuck in this place? Just allow it to speak to you, your inner wisdom, your inner experience. And as the answers begin to flood your conscious awareness, you simply acknowledge them and give thanks. There is nothing you need do now but be. You simply allow the infinite mind and heart of God, the infinite divine order of the universal presence, to be called forth as you. You have activated it now by your willingness to be present, by your openness to your inner wisdom. The learning has already taken place, and now you simply breathe. And you stand in the realization that there is a divine order, a divine pattern, and you are fully aligned with that pattern. And there is nothing more to do. There is only something to be. Peace, harmony, love. And so give thanks now for this wisdom you've been given. And give thanks for your oneness with the infinite, and for every experience that has brought you to this place this day. Give thanks for the butterfly effect of your life that has called you to this experience. And now see yourself stepping forward, framing every step with the Word, the very presence of God, this healing awareness that you are embodying even now. And as you see yourself moving forward in the happy expectancy of your good, I give thanks. I give thanks for this message. I give thanks for those who've been called here this day to hear it, to be with it, and to move forth in a new way from it. I give thanks for the infinite intelligence of God that has called us from chaos to order and back to chaos and back to order, for this is the nature of life, and we see clearly now that we are at one with the infinite. And so I close this message with a grateful heart, knowing and declaring right now that we are remembering the spiritual truth of our lives. We are remembering the spiritual truth of ourselves right here and right now.